Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Full Court Press Basketball Debate, the first edition of the new year, 2015, January the 6th. We begin this debate rather solemnly.
On a sad note.
On an extremely sad and depressing note. One of the...
You didn't say who we were?
Well, they know who we are by now.
Okay.
If they don't know who we are by now, then...
They need to listen more?
Right.
Okay.
As many of you have heard, on Sunday morning, this past Sunday morning on January the 4th, longtime SportsCenter host Stuart Scott, who had been battling cancer for 10, 15 years, passed away.
Has he had it for that long?
Yes, yeah.
What kind of cancer was it?
So it was in his brain.
I thought it was pancreatic cancer.
No, it was in his brain.
Really?
The fight is finally over for him.
He went into remission 3 different times.
Oh, yeah.
But they couldn't get it all.
Very sadly, he's departed from us. Any thoughts on Stuart Scott?
Well, I feel very depressing, very sad. When anyone battles an illness like that for that long and they get their hopes all built up because they go into remission, they have chemotherapy and all the drugs they have to take and all of the chemo that makes you so sick you want to die, from what I understand, and all that. I mean, if it's something that takes somebody in a couple of months, you're not prepared for anybody to die no matter what. But it's over. But when it drags on for years and years and keeps coming back like that, it's like, is it a curse or is it a blessing in disguise? Because by the end there, you could tell just by looking at him on the TV that he was not himself. He was gaunt looking. He had lost so much weight. He was doing his best to still try to stay motivated and positive and all that. My condolences to the family, but you got to ask yourself, is he in a better place? Maybe I don't know how much he suffered. I don't know. We don't know what his quality of life has been over the last few years. It was just his time to go. I really do believe that. I think I know if I was suffering that much, and if I was told I'm going to die, and then I was told, oh, it's in remission, and you may have another 2 to 5 years left, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you go for a checkup and it's back, and then you have to go through the whole process all over again. Is that living? I mean, really? I just feel sorry. I'm not sorry for when someone like that passes if they've been suffering, because their suffering is over. I'm sorry for the ones he left behind. Those are the ones, because he's in a better place. The good Lord took it. Let's be honest. Okay? But I don't know if he had children.
He has 2 girls.
He had 2 girls. Teenagers. Well, then I feel sorry for the family.
Stuart Scott, there are 3 people in the sports world since I started doing this that I have looked up to: Bill Simmons, Stephen A. Smith, and Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott, there was something about him, his personality, the way he conducted himself on television, the way he hosted SportsCenter, his humor, but he could also turn on a dime and be serious. Mm-hmm. He was such a good host. He was the best host ESPN's ever seen.
I think there's one word that describes him that I've heard used since yesterday 2 or 3 times, that I think this adjective sums him up as far as work-related goes. He was very fair and objective.
Mm-hmm. I-
He never called names. He never put anybody down on purpose. He was not slanderous.
I
He-
watched
you know?
I watched First Take yesterday, and the guys and Carrie started off with a tribute to Stuart Scott, and Stephen A. Smith and Stuart Scott were very close, and Carrie, the host, was talking about how out of nowhere. I mean, she began it by saying she didn't really know Stuart Scott on a personal level like Stephen A. did.
Right.
But out of the blue, Stuart Scott would email her, keep your head up, stay focused, stay passionate, keep going, you're doing great.
Right.
You know, a guy like that, you can't even put a value on that.
Right.
And
He was an all-around general nice guy, from what I understand.
He was a hero to a lot of people. And
He never actually played any sport,
no,
did he?
He just no.
You know, like Shaq and
No.
those
Barkley,
guys
no.
that are, yeah.
Mm-mm. He was great at what he did. He knew what he was doing. He kept you entertained.
Right.
But above all else, Stuart Scott was a fantastic father. Stuart Scott was, like you said, an all-around great person.
And he was very fair and objective.
What-
If he had anything negative to say about a player or a team or whatever, he had the goods to back it up. He didn't just throw his opinion out there just because that's what he thought.
And the greatest thing to me about Stuart was you mentioned in your spiel a little earlier that we don't know how much he was suffering.
Right.
You know why?
Because it never showed and he never talked about it.
Never showed
No,
it.
he didn't play the pity card.
And that was the best thing about
Yeah.
Stuart. He didn't say, "Oh, pity me."
Right.
"Oh, poor little old me."
Right.
He went about his business every day of his life like it was his last.
Right.
And that's how I will remember Stu.
Yeah.
He was just all around fantastic. His speech at the ESPYs, oh my God. I mean, it just,
Right.
he will be missed greatly. SportsCenter, ESPN will never be the same. Never, ever be the same. And
I'm sorry for two teenage girls that
I
have to
am-
grow up without their dad.
I am
and no dad to walk them down the aisle. And yeah.
My deepest condolences go out to his two little girls, but they need to know that he's watching,
Yeah.
and you're still daddy's girls,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And, it was just a very, very sad day. It's been a very sad
Yeah, and
weekend.
on the same day, wasn't it the same day the GM for the manager of the Los Angeles?
The Lakers? No,
Yeah.
that was yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Okay.
But as far as Stuart Scott goes, he's, again, just a fantastic guy, fantastic host of ESPN, fantastic father, fantastic family man, had great values from what I understand. Just his demeanor. You could tell just by the way he carried himself. With all that could be going wrong in his life, he found the positive. And he never dwelled on his illness. He was just someone to be admired. And
My condolences also go out for the general manager that lost his
Mitch Kupchak,
15-year-old daughter.
absolutely, yeah.
What a heart-wrenching thing to have a child, raise that child for 15 years and then lose them.
What a sad weekend.
Yeah. She was ill from what I understand and never really recuperated, and it's pneumonia that ended up taking her, or she had lung failure, huh?
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Sad
Anyway,
weekend. It
yeah.
was also a sad weekend in Cleveland, Yvonne. LeBron James. Moving on. Knee and back problems. They've been bugging him. And he was out all this past week. And he's out at least another week. I know this is long term. And I know that this question is long term. And I know it's still early. But with the way Cleveland's been playing, this is a question that people are asking. Yvonne, is Cleveland's season lost?
No.
Why or why not?
No. No. I mean, he can come back and they can turn things around. What I don't appreciate, who was it? I forgot his name. It was one of the analysts. And I'm going to draw a blank, so just forget that I'm even mentioning a name. Said, how ironic is it that he was so healthy and never missed any games and was on top of things the whole time he was in Miami. He gets to go back home. He's back home where he's supposed to be, quote, happy, making all this money, playing for his hometown. They accept him back. He's welcomed with open arms, the whole bit, and now all of a sudden he's got physical problems. Do you think that's a coincidence? Do you think it's legitimate? Do you think that he's faking? Do you think
that makes you mad that an analyst would say that?
It makes me mad that somebody would say something like that.
Why?
I really don't think that he would do something like that.
You don't think he would?
No.
I don't think he would either. But you know what? It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You think about that statement, and that actually has validity to it. I don't know who said it. I didn't hear it. But that's interesting.
The name's not coming across. He's
Well, that's
he's not a
interesting.
regular.
That's interesting because I never thought of it like that. But it makes you wonder.
They even went so far as to say the only incident that ever happened was when he was so dehydrated
The cramp.
on the floor that he got leg cramps.
The cramp.
And they had to walk him off the floor. But even after they hydrated him, brought him back, put him in IV, he still went back out there and played some more. Isn't that amazing that he could go all out and, excuse the expression, but balls to the wall for Miami, and all he wants to do the whole time he's there is talk about going back home, going back home. He goes back to Cleveland not knowing what kind of reception he's going to get, not knowing if the first time he goes out and has to meet the Cleveland fan base, if they're going to boo him or whatever, not knowing how he's going to be accepted. And now all of a sudden, because they're not doing that great, is this an excuse?
Well, okay, let's...
He is not my favorite pro basketball player, okay? He never has been. He's just not, he's in my top 10, personality-wise, work ethics, player on the court and all that. He's in my top 10, but he's not in my top 5.
Well, he's the best sportsman.
Okay? He's
I
not
would
in
say.
my top 5. But to be perfectly honest, I don't think he'd do something like that on purpose.
I don't either, but let me say this. There is validity
And
to that.
shame on them for making that kind of judgment
you know what?
call.
But there's validity to that. But there's also validity to the fact that LeBron is also carrying a much bigger load here in Cleveland this year than he did last year in Miami. Let's keep in mind who was on that Miami team.
Yeah.
Wade, Bosh, the Mario Chalmers of the world.
Which makes you wonder
Okay.
if some of these problems that
Now-
he's having is not stress related.
Now, you've got Kyrie Irving, who's been good all season, okay? But you've got Kevin Love, who up until maybe
2 games ago.
maybe 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
has been absolutely non-existent.
Right.
The bench has not contributed a bit. Mike Miller was out till about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got a first-year head coach. LeBron is carrying a much bigger load here in Cleveland.
But he wanted this.
So he could be tired.
He wanted to go home.
It could amount to the fact that it's just wear and tear.
I think the thing that bothers me the most is the people that are saying this are not in the medical profession or the medical field. They didn't bother to check with a doctor. They are making accusations. And I don't care if they would be talking about Dennis Rodman, who was one of my least favorite players of all time. Okay? Don't get on national television and make these suppositions and these accusations when you're not a doctor and you don't really know what's going on.
Back to the original question, is Cleveland's season lost?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Okay, but I'll tell you what.
But they can't afford
This
for him
whole
to be out for too long.
This whole time that this Toronto Raptors team has been leading the East, that's no more.
Right.
Because Atlanta is leading the East.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto has fallen to third.
Oh, I thought it was second.
Third.
Okay.
Behind Atlanta, who were the two teams in our last debate
Yeah.
that I said would meet. Atlanta and Chicago. Okay? Those are the 1 and 2 seeds. Now Toronto's fallen third, which means Cleveland is sixth. Sixth. Granted, the East is not that fantastic. But
Well, there's no comparison with the East and
they
the West.
can't
There's
afford.
absolutely no
They
comparison.
cannot afford, with as pathetic as they have been on the road this year, if they finish outside of the top 4 seeds, which is highly likely at this point in time, they're not going to have home court advantage in a 7-game series. And with as poorly as they've played on the road this year, that does not bode well for them.
No.
Statistically, it just does not. So is Cleveland's season lost? Not yet. But they cannot afford to have any more losses to teams like Philadelphia.
Right.
To teams like, and this is not taking anything away from Jason Kidd, but Milwaukee. Cleveland needs to
Right.
beat Milwaukee. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They can't afford those kinds of losses. Now, how does Cleveland fix their problems? Or is there a way to fix their problems?
Well, LeBron needs to come back, for one thing. Do they? I don't know because I haven't heard. Maybe you can answer this question for me. Do they think that with just, is there a serious injury involved? Or do they think
It's not-
that
it's
with
just-
physical therapy
It's
and
soreness.
rest?
It's soreness.
Okay. All right. So he's overtired, overwrought, sore muscles. He needs rest, a
Right.
lot of hydration, sleep, all that
It's
kind
soreness.
of stuff. Right. Well, you know what? Not even half the season's over
Right.
yet. We got a long way to go if he's already this exhausted.
Yep.
So, does that answer our question?
Well, I think they fixed their problem last night in a huge trade that we'll talk about later on.
Okay.
I think they might have fixed their problems besides the head coaching issue, which, again, we'll also talk about later in the debate.
I don't see that problem getting fixed.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Mm-mm.
That's
And
what
it's
I'm talking
And it's going to
about.
cost them.
Yeah.
It's going to cost them. Moving
Which
on.
means that LeBron is going to regret his ultimate move and his main reason for wanting to go back to Cleveland besides going home.
Well, let's keep in mind
In the
that
first
when he
place.
let's keep in mind that when he was interviewed after he made his return to Cleveland, he said we're not expecting a championship this year.
Right,
This is going to take 2-3 years.
right,
And he's right.
right.
He was right from the beginning, and honestly,
Do you think that
They're proving
if
him
it
right.
continues as it's going, that there's going to be a head coach change?
yes, I think
Okay.
there has to be.
Well, we'll see.
The Charlotte Hornets, Al Jefferson, big time name, out at least another 2 weeks. He's been out for 2 weeks already. He's out at least another,
Refresh my memory
2 weeks.
on the injury.
a groin injury.
Right.
Where do the Hornets go from here, Yvonne?
They got to work with what they got, which is not a whole lot. They got to do the best they can with what they got. I mean, that's the only way you can answer something
Let
like
me
that.
say this about Charlotte, okay?
There is no bench to speak of. Not really.
Let me say this. A guy that has been very overlooked this season in my mind, that has impressed the hell out of me, has been Kemba Walker.
Okay.
He has been very impressive. That being said, and congratulations to all of his great performances this year. That being said, I'm going to admit that I was wrong. I thought that Lance Stevenson going to Charlotte was going to make them a championship contender.
That didn't happen.
I was not wrong. I was dead wrong.
Yeah. That did not happen.
Because it seemed like the perfect fit. Well,
Yeah,
they're 12 and 24.
yeah.
Okay?
I know.
It's not a fit at all. For some reason, he's just not fitting in. Where do the Hornets go without Al Jefferson? To Kemba Walker. I mean, he's carried them all year.
You think the non-fit of Stevenson is the team's fault or Stevenson's fault?
It's Lance Stevenson's personality.
Uh-huh.
He
I
was
agree.
in that Indiana environment.
Yeah.
Indiana is completely different from Charlotte.
Oh, and let's not forget, let's take it one step further. This year's Indiana's not anything like last year's Indiana, where he got this attitude from in the first place.
Okay, so now you tell me.
Am I right?
Right.
Okay.
But
He was with the big dogs last year, and they were on top, and they were supposed to win it all. And they were, I mean, every analyst was saying at the beginning, oh, I see Indiana taking this all the way. And San Diego just snuck
San
up right
Antonio.
behind them. And right. Okay, but that's where he got this attitude from.
right, and there's a certain guy that has to do with the Charlotte Hornets that's not going to take that attitude. And his name just happens to be Michael Jordan.
Right.
Okay? He's not going to take the whole blowing in LeBron's ear. Give me a break.
Right.
Michael Jordan's not going to stand for that.
Well, that's grammar school.
Right.
That's grammar school.
Right.
That's go out for recess and shoot
Right.
some hoops at recess time.
Meet me on the playground.
Right. That's no.
Let's get away from injuries and let's talk about Rajon Rondo making his return to Boston. Scoring 29, a season high, and winning. Your thoughts on the performance, Yvonne? And on Rondo's return to Boston?
Okay, what do you want me to say?
Give us your thoughts on the performance. Did you honestly think Rondo was going to score 29?
Yes.
You're one of the very few.
Yes. I did. I did. Okay. Rajon Rondo is going to do what Rajon Rondo needs to do no matter who he's playing for. Okay? I mean, the man it's on low.
Is this it right here?
One more. High's too much. Okay. Rondo's going to do, it's hard to believe it's going to be 20-something tomorrow night. Rajon Rondo's going to do what Rajon Rondo needs to do no matter what court he's on or what team he's playing for. He is his own independent individual. By that I mean that he's one of those guys that you're not going to break the mold. He's going to play his game no matter where he is.
Well, see, you're proving my point.
Okay.
Is it Rondo's type of game to score 30? When's the last time you've seen Rondo score 30?
No.
Okay, see, I didn't think Rondo was going to go in. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not ever for 1 second think that Rondo was going to go back to Boston and have a poor game. Absolutely not.
I don't think he would have a poor game no matter where he goes.
I didn't think
You didn't think he was going to play at the caliber that he's playing.
30 for Rondo? That's all. I'm sorry. I'm not taking anything away from Rondo. He is capable of doing that. But that's just not him.
Okay?
You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to use your own words. Okay? That you have said numerous times about at least 3 point guards I can think of right off the top of my head. If nobody else is going to do it, even though the point guard is not supposed to score that many points, somebody's got to do it.
You're twisting my words. Rondo had 15 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
He didn't need to score 15 in the first quarter.
No,
You got
but
Monte Ellis, but you
the
watch
ability was there.
You watch highlights of that game, and Rondo did that to prove a point. Because it wasn't Rondo feeding his teammates. It was his teammates feeding Rondo. It was the complete opposite of what it usually is.
Well, then they must have gotten together and said, we're going to do this to prove a point.
That's my
So
point.
the team was behind him.
15 in the first quarter?
Then that means the team was behind him
Right.
in doing this.
Because Rondo doesn't just score 30 a night.
No.
He can, but that's not his game.
Well,
That's like saying...
it's like you saying Chris Paul could score 40.
That's what I was about
Chris
to say.
Paul could score 40 points every night if
Sure
he
he
wants
could.
to.
But that's not his
But
game.
that's not his game, and that's not what a point guard is necessarily supposed to do.
Unless-
and I'm quoting you.
Unless you're Russell Westbrook
Okay.
or Stephen Curry
Okay.
or Derrick
But
Rose.
I'm going to quote you again. Why do they usually end up doing that? Because somebody's got to put the points on
Usually,
the board.
correct. Usually. But the fact that Rondo had 15 in the first
Oh, they
quarter.
were proving something.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they were proving something.
Absolutely, they were proved. I just.
And
I
against-
expected Rondo.
Yeah,
I expected Rondo to go
yeah.
15 to 18 points with 12, 13 assists,
Yeah.
7 rebounds. A typical Rondo game. 30?
Yeah.
I just didn't expect it. Not that it couldn't have been done. Of course, we've seen Rondo drop 45 in a playoff game. In a must-win game 5, Rondo dropped 43.
And in
We've seen it.
And wait, and in Dallas.
Right.
Let's not forget
I mean-
where this happened.
No, it was in Boston. I mean,
That's what I meant to say. In Boston.
we've seen Rondo do it. We know he's capable. Did I think he was going to come out and...
Okay, let me
No.
ask you another question. Since we're on the topic, do you think it had anything to do with the fact that it was in Boston?
It had everything to do with the fact that it was in Boston.
Absolutely.
Of course. Of course it did.
Absolutely.
Let's talk long term. Is Rajon Rondo capable of leading Dallas to a title? Why or why not?
Based on what he did?
Based on the way Dallas is performing, the way Rondo has fit in, is he capable of leading Dallas to a title?
What are their stats right now?
They
How
are-
many and how many?
4th or 5th in the West right now, but their record is outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Yeah, I do. Are they going to be the first or second seed? No.
The question is, this is a tough question for me to answer, okay? I didn't come up with this question. This was one of ESPN's questions. This is where I get all of this stuff from.
Right.
This is a tough question for me to answer because it's so specific.
Right.
Is Rondo
And to be
capable?
perfectly honest, it's still a little early, and he just joined the
Is
team.
Rondo capable of leading Dallas to the top? Of course he is. Rondo is capable of leading Minnesota to a title. But is Minnesota capable of winning the title? No, not this year.
Right.
Rondo's capable of leading anybody to a title.
Right.
Because he's Rajon Rondo. So
Right.
yeah, the answer to this question is yes.
Right.
Is Dallas capable of winning the title this year? Yeah. Is it gonna
Is
happen?
it probable? No.
Maybe. With the way they're performing, because let's not forget what Dallas has over a lot of teams. Experience.
Hmm.
And I have said for years that there is no equal to experience in a playoff setting.
Look-
In the regular season, experience is 10%. 10%. Because it's a basketball game.
Right.
The playoffs is a whole new season.
Right.
It's like the regular season
Right.
doesn't even matter.
Well, it's like, how many times has Dirk been in that position?
Well, exactly.
Right.
I mean, he's got 2 rings.
kind of hard to argue with that.
I mean, come on.
Right.
Yes, Rondo is capable, again, of leading Utah to a title.
Dog Utah. They're not
Okay,
doing
I'm
that
sorry.
bad this
Oh,
year.
I'll give you one. The Knicks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that kills
Yes,
me.
Rondo is capable of leading Dallas to a title. Of course
If
he is.
anybody would have told me the Knicks would have been in last place before the season
The next
started.
topic. Kevin Durant returns after missing 6 games, scores 44 points.
Of course he does.
As OKC beats Phoenix in overtime. Question A, your thoughts on Durant's performance, Yvonne?
Oh my God. I couldn't even change the channel to watch some of the other games. I was so enthralled by it. It was phenomenal. Nobody would have. I knew he was going to come back with a vengeance, but I never dreamed he would come back and have that kind of performance. I mean, he's coming back off of an injury. And after I saw what he was doing and how hard he was pushing himself, you know how I feel about how hard they push these guys, or how hard some of these guys push themselves. I was towards the end, I was thinking to myself, okay, slow down and back off a little bit. You're going to re-injure yourself and be out yet again. It was a phenomenal thing
I'd
to
like
watch.
to state for the record,
It was phenomenal.
I would like to state for the record that my opinion has changed. I have said since we started this show that I believe that the most unstoppable scorer currently in the NBA has been Carmelo Anthony. My opinion has changed. And that is so hard for me to say because I am such a Carmelo Anthony lover.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, Kevin Durant, this was not an injury. This was a sprained ankle. A sprained ankle. And you come back and drop 44
Yep.
cold turkey?
Yep.
Game time decision.
Yep.
It was announced 3 hours before the game
Yeah,
that he was going to start.
He could have re-injured or actually fractured
You come
that
back,
ankle
you
all
come
over.
back cold turkey off a sprained right ankle after just having the surgery on the foot of the same leg
Yep.
and drop 44. You're the man.
And you got to put your whole body weight running up and
You're
down
the
that
man.
court for the entire game.
This
How many
look,
minutes did he play?
I mean, including overtime, he played close to 40. It'd have to be about 48 minutes. A full
Yeah.
game if you include
Yeah.
overtime.
That's what I thought.
Uh,
He barely sat down.
Let me say this. This performance is Michael Jordan-esque. It really is.
It was phenomenal to
It
watch.
really,
I
really
couldn't even
is.
change the channel to watch some of the other games.
Question B. Russell Westbrook in this game was ejected in the second quarter. Your thoughts on that, Yvonne?
As he should have been. Don't tell me you don't think he deserved to be ejected.
I think he deserved to, and I also thought Morris did as well. And they didn't eject Morris.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Look, Westbrook definitely deserved it. But you know what? That's a two-way street. I'm sorry. That particular incident, usually there's someone that starts it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, they were both guilty.
Come on. Come on.
I'll take it one step further, Chris. How much do you think Westbrook was frustrated? Think about this for a minute before you answer. I know the incident is the reason he got ejected, but do you think that Russell Westbrook went out there with a chip on his shoulder, and when he saw what Durant was doing and the numbers he was pulling down, he was not the star of that game, even from the beginning of the game? Do you think he was a little jealous and resentful, which made him a little short-tempered, which brought about the incident or made the incident worse? Do you think there was an underlying current there in Westbrook's mind that he was not the star of this show?
I 100% disagree with that.
Okay.
Though that is logical, and though you could make that argument,
Because he usually is the star, you
I'm
know.
going to go one step further. Before Westbrook was ejected in this game, he had 6 assists.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a feeling you were going to ask something like that, so I did some research. Westbrook had 6 assists before he went out.
Okay.
5 of them were for Durant. 5 of his assists went to Durant.
Okay. I
So
didn't know that.
in a roundabout way tells me that this was Westbrook's temper. We know Russell Westbrook is a hothead.
Yes.
He's a hothead.
And he has an attitude sometimes. Big time.
That's all this was. That's all this was.
Yeah.
But I disagree with the official only ejecting Westbrook. I disagree with that.
I do too.
I'm sorry. I disagree with that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying
Oh,
that
yeah, it was
just because
tit for tat, huh?
I'm not saying that just because I love Russell Westbrook. It's the truth.
Who do you feel started it?
Oh, Westbrook started it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No matter what was said under the breath, or no matter what was mumbled, because you're a professional. You should be able to walk away from anything that gets said.
Exactly. That's why the Phoenix guy should have been ejected.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Walk away. Go to your bench.
Right.
Be the bigger man and don't retaliate.
Take the high road.
Come on. Come on.
What's the stupid old expression that you teach grammar school children about on the playground? Sticks and stones can break your bones.
Right.
Words can never hurt you.
Exactly. Just walk away.
That's
Just walk
You're
away.
supposed to be a professional.
Just walk away. You don't. I disagree with that. I just do. Long term, can OKC make a run at the title? Why or why not?
What's their record right now?
They are one game behind 500. And they are currently 10th in the West.
Yeah, because New Orleans is ahead of them, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now we are. I don't know. My gut tells me yeah, but not if this grammar school stuff keeps on.
We kind of talked about this in our last debate.
Yeah.
And I think I said that even if Oklahoma City makes the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed, that will be the most dangerous 7 or 8 seed in NBA history. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
I stand by that.
Okay.
Even if this team, because let's be real here, Golden State with the way they're playing, which by the way is absolutely unbelievable, okay? Teams like Golden State, teams like Memphis, Houston, the Dallases, the Clippers, the Spurs, they're not going to let Oklahoma City get in to a top 4 spot. They're just too far behind.
No,
They're
that's
too
not
far
gonna
behind.
happen.
They're the
That's
Portland,
not gonna
the Portlands of the world. They're not gonna let them slip in. But let me tell you something.
The die's already cast, I think, for the first 5.
But let me tell you something.
It's just a matter of who's going to be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This team gets in at all, you better watch out.
Yeah.
Because seeding, to me, when it comes to a team like Oklahoma City, that's a number. That's a number.
Yeah.
It does not matter.
Right.
With a team like Oklahoma City, who plays equally as good on the road as they do at home.
Right. That's one of the biggest advantages they've got.
The Spurs as well.
Okay? They play equally as well on the road as they do at home.
Absolutely. So, if this team gets in at all, 8 seed, 7 seed, 6 seed,
Right.
watch out.
Yeah.
Because they're coming.
Yeah.
And they're not going to hold back. And they're not going to play like the prototypical 8 seed.
Right.
They're not going to be in Atlanta that barely gets by and makes the playoffs.
Right.
This is Oklahoma. This is the Thunder.
Right.
If Durant and Westbrook and those boys stay healthy, you better watch out.
And Russell gets his temper.
Because they're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming.
Yeah.
We're going to end part 1 here. Part 2's coming at you next.